limited RDA resources is where it's going to happen in light of our, you know, if you take a 3-year commitment to the North States project that's already been made, I mean, we're well into the design of that project, so I don't know where the money's going to come for, especially for $1.5 million commitment. I guess that's why we need to push it on the stimulus package list.
Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I also come from a district that doesn't have a county park either, but I think in terms of RDA funds, I agree with Supervisor Colfax that I think this is sort of a preemptive kind of a approach, and do we really want to set a precedent and talk about what requests might be coming? As I think the chair said, we haven't gotten any requests. There aren't any specifics in front of us, and I just don't think it's a good process to preemptively decide we're gonna start saying no to people about something that we don't really know quite what it consists of, except in very general terms. So I think that we shouldn't be wrapping things up in a package, especially at this 11th hour or 11th and a half hour, or whatever you would call this, by sending a letter like this, because a new board could render this a moot issue and take it up again. I don't think we need to get into action and reaction that sets up those dynamics. I don't think it's worthy of our time. But I think the chair is absolutely right. This board took on unanimously and talked about the 5-year implementation plan, and I think that document speaks for itself. That's there for the public to view. That was the process that we entered into, and I think that covers everything we need to cover. You know, we're not looking at spending any money here today or reassigning it or redirecting it. We're just, I agree with some of the components of the letter. I think it's well worded, and some of them I very much agree with. But I think in summation, it just isn't the appropriate action to take at this juncture. I think it sends the wrong message at the final meeting of this board to jump ahead about what might occur and take a stance on that in something that actually this board won't have authority over in terms of next year. So I just think that we did our job. I think we did a good job. I think that we had housing advocates that said wasn't totally what they wanted, but the board had done a good job in terms of creating the 5-year implementation plan and recommended that the board support the 5-year implementation plan. I think we did our job. I think the executive office did a good job of getting that comprehensive document to us. We supported it, we did it, and I really think that should be our final statement on the issue for this calendar year. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Whatever the outcome here is what your board decides, I would like to request that you allow the executive office to continue working with the school district and the city of Ukiah on possible funding scenarios. This is a target income group area that the gymnasium is located in. We could probably fill that gymnasium every single day, especially on weekends in this rainy weather. So our office considers it to be a high priority project. That's why we continue to look for funding for it. So I would request that in any motion that you make, that you allow us to continue to discuss with parties. I'm not certain that this isn't something that could be financed over a period of time utilizing the funding that comes from other agencies. I'm hearing a lot of talk about what seems to be a cash payment, but I don't know that there might not be some opportunities with the funding that's out there to spread it over a period of time. So I'd just like to encourage you to allow our office to continue in any discussion that we feel would be fruitful to the benefit of the citizens.
Okay, Supervisor Pinches.
To move this along, Mr. Chairman.
Before you make a motion.
Okay, I'm not going to make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
You know, sometimes in politics, it's not how things are, it's how things are perceived. And there's already this perception out there, and we can't draw back from that this letter may be an attempt to distance ourselves from the ARC. And your letter is completely factual. There's nothing in that letter that I disagree with. But in light of the, well, for lack of a better word, the controversy that this has stirred up, I'm going to lean on the side of caution, and what I would recommend is that in the name, not in the name of the board, but in the name of Mr. Chairman, you ought to send this letter in under, you know, under your signature and not the board's signature. So, because it's, like I say, it's not how things are, sometimes it's how things are perceived. And I certainly, after giving him over $1 million, and I believe I was on the board in my first term, and we started that whole community foundation with a contribution for this project, $25,000. So we've had a long-term commitment, and I don't want to get the perception out there that any sense of the form that the county's not willing to complete this project. And so, I complete with this letter. There's not a problem I have with it, but we also know that the perception's out there. But I really think it would be helpful if you sent a letter under your name, this same letter, to reminding all the entities of the facts of the situation, that the county's already committed the $1 million, because I think a lot of folks out there need to know that. Because there's a perception out there that the county hasn't contributed to this, when in fact it was the county that got this project started. So that would be my recommendation.
I appreciate that, Supervisor. Supervisor Colfax?
Mr. Chairman, you are the second district supervisor, and I think it should and could and should be your responsibility to do what you feel is appropriate from that perspective. I just feel the recommendation that it be sent out over your signature should not come from us. My feeling is here is if you feel there's a need for clarity in this area and so forth, send the same kind of letter that I'll probably be sending, writing tonight on other issues, but it's just part of your job. The other thing that what I would suggest here is that we've already obviously discussed it. It has been noted, and I suggest here that we direct our CEO to continue to work on funding sources such as they might be, and that we reaffirm our support for the ARC, and at the same time note that our redevelopment funds have been reviewed and will always be reviewed in terms of emergent situations and so forth. But I think that's the prudent thing to do. I would hope this discussion does not prove to be provocative, but it certainly will be informative for anyone who is truly interested in getting some clarity and some light on this topic.
I appreciate two supervisors' comments. And I'd like to go to the public now. If there's any members of the public wishing to speak to this item, please step forward. At this time, before the public comes forward, it is my inclination to ask the CEO's office to withdraw my name as chair and submit my name as second district supervisor in regards to the letter. And I would advocate also for Supervisor Colfax's comments in regards to allowing the CEO's office to continue to reconnoiter funding sources. So just for that point of clarification. So is there any members of the public out there wishing to come up and beat me up for being like I said yesterday, that mean SOB?
Provocateur.
Provocateur. Yeah.
John McCown, Ukiah, and thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I think that the way you've modified the action is much more appropriate. As Supervisor Pinchas says, there's nothing factually inaccurate in the letter. It's a clear statement of what the board has done to this point. All of the points mentioned together form a valid point of view, and there are other